As we all know, the first 24 to 48 hours is critical in missing persons cases, and that is so for the case of Nancy Brannon. If you want to know more about this case, please continue watching. This lady that you see on your screen here is Nancy Brannon, and she went missing in 1986. And as of this year, 2023, she has been missing for 37 years. And even though back then in 86, we did not have surveillance cameras and cell phones and things that we have today, the same rule still applies that the first 24 to 48 hours is the most critical time in a missing persons case, and more than likely you can lose evidence with time and people's memory. Things start to fade. Melissa Dawes said that it's crazy because even though she was actually only 7 years old when her aunt went missing, she remembers her as the cool aunt, the aunt that everybody wanted to be around, even her coworkers. And Nancy didn't have any children of her own, and this is why they think that she was the cool aunt, because she also lived in a condo with a pool. So oftentimes they would go over to her condo and go swimming, and they would have slumber parties and things like that. Nancy Brannon went missing from St. Louis, Missouri at the end of November in 1986, and it happened right around Thanksgiving. At least that's what her niece Melissa says, and for many years they didn't have any answers. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. And they still don't have any answers to this day. But at the time of her disappearance, Nancy's car was found in the parking lot of her apartment complex, and her purse was found 10 feet or so away from her car. And it looked like she had not been robbed because her family said her credit cards and her checkbook were still inside her wallet. And there was also $27 that was still found at the scene. And her condo door was open, which was spotted by a neighbor. And I guess this was very unusual. So the neighbor called the apartment manager, and then she called the police. Now, the police went to Nancy's parents' house and told them that their daughter was missing. And so her father, having a key to her condo, he went there with the police and opened the door for them, and they walked around inside the condo, and he said that nothing was taken, nothing was out of place, everything was where it was supposed to be. The apartment was not in disarray. They even discovered that her bed had not been slept in because it was made. And so they determined that she didn't, make it into the house and then leave again. Apparently, she was just taken from right after she stepped out of her car. Now, another fear that the family has had over the years is that the person who took Nancy is someone that she knew, because they feel like if she didn't know this person, then a bigger mess or some type of scene would have been made to leave some evidence of who this person was. So they don't think she was just abducted. They think that she went with this person willingly, and that leads them to believe that she knew exactly who this person was. At the time of her disappearance, Nancy worked at what was then called the St. Louis Eye Hospital, and it was said that she was very successful and independent, and that she kind of dove into her career at the time of her disappearance. So I guess she was like all in, and that was what she was mainly focused on. But she was taking business courses at their local community college. So her family can't say where she might have met this person who she left with that night. But Melissa says that the last time that she saw her aunt, her and her mother and her grandmother had a girls' day outing, which they usually would do. And the mall that they went to was like an hour away from where they lived, so it would be like a day trip for them. And that's what they did the last day that she was seen. And after that, they don't really know what happened to her, because normally she would go out and get drinks and dinner with her coworkers, because remember I said that everybody that knew her pretty much liked her. And that's what she did on the night that she was last seen. And they don't know if she went missing. They think it was between the 24th and the 25th, but they're not sure at about what time, because it could be anywhere from 11 to 12 a.m. the next day. So they're not really sure, but they think it's around that time frame that she was last seen. According to Nancy's niece, Melissa, the last time that people saw her, Nancy was wearing a pair of blue jeans with a white button-up shirt, and she had on a chain with a gold cross around her neck. But she doesn't have any tattoos or any identifying distinguishable marks, so that can't be used to identify her. But they have entered her dental records as well as Melissa's father's DNA into the system. So if they find a body that does not have an identification, they can run that through the system, and they probably, if they find her, they will get a match. Now, her family doesn't believe that she's alive after all this time, because, by now she would be in her mid to late 70s if she were still alive. And Melissa also describes her aunt as 5'2" or 5'3" with dark curly hair, and she's pictured here. And this is one of the pictures that they used for her missing persons poster. And again, her name is Nancy Lee Brennan, and she went missing November 25th of 1986, and she is described as having brown hair, brown eyes, and stands at a height of 5'4" and weighed at the time of her disappearance 120 pounds. And she went missing from Shrewsbury, Missouri, or you could say St. Louis, Missouri. And the police department are asking that if you have any information about her case or her whereabouts, you can call the Shrewsbury Police Department and the Missing Persons Clearinghouse. And I will leave all of that information down in the description box below, along with her missing persons flyer, so that you can get that information there as well. Now, Melissa was given this case file of her aunt in the mid 2000s, and her other aunt told her that this case is solvable. And when Melissa asked her why does she think that this case is solvable, she dropped a bomb on Melissa that no one probably was expecting, and that is that her aunt Nancy was having an affair with a married man. But Melissa never gives his name, but she says she had his first name, but not his last name. And in the file, it's just listed as ... So there's no way to figure out his identity. And that's another piece of information that has disturbed her and her family for years, because they believe that this man might have information as far as what happened to Nancy. And Melissa and her family also believe that people might have saw something or heard something, but like most people, nobody wants to blame anybody who didn't do something, because that can be very damaging to a person, and they could be looked at as someone that they're not being blamed for something that they didn't do. So that's why they think that these people never came forward if they, knew something or saw something. And I can tell you from personal experience, it is a hard, gut-wrenching feeling to know that something happened to a relative of yours and someone might have information and they are refusing to release that information to you, depending on how it might make someone look. And at this point, the family is saying that now all they want is closure, because a couple of years ago, they had her declared legally dead by a judge, and they held a memorial service for her. So she's legally declared deceased now. And so at this point, the family's just asking for closure, especially her older brother, Randy. He's, in his 70s, and he said that he fears that he's not going to be alone live enough to see whoever did this to Nancy or what. And so now he just wants to know what happened to his sister, even if she's not alive anymore, which is a pretty good chance. And they think that she was probably murdered that same night that she disappeared. But again, guys, I will leave this article and her missing persons flyer down in the description box below, so that if you have any other questions that I didn't mention, you can get them from that article and the information there. And now that brings me to the end of this video. If you like this video, please don't forget to leave me a like, a comment, and please don't forget to share. And if you're not already subscribed, please make sure you subscribe. And until next time, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.